Well, hi, how y'all doing out there? I hear the students got back from camp. How's it going? Nice and rested, easy week, you know? And, at least with our church, by the time we get back from camp, we feel a little bit warmed over before, just wiped out. But it is also like the best week that you could have. Did y'all have a good week? Yeah? Good. Good. My name is Jeremy Evans, and I'm the pastor at Woodridge down in Kingwood, Texas. I don't know if you know where Kingwood is at, but you kind of go down Houston way, northeast side of Houston. You'd run into us right off of 59. Well, exit Kingwood Drive and going back, and then you would run into us back there. But I want to introduce some people to you, and that would be my family. These are my people. Obviously, I'm the guy on the left. My wife is the lady that's the farthest on the right, and sandwiched in the middle are our 4 daughters. See, every time I say that, 4 daughters, somebody goes, wow. And that's true, but yeah, it's crazy because our oldest, Avery, she's the second from the left. She's going to be a senior in college this year, everybody. My gosh. I mean, I'm not that old. I swear, I'm not. And then Kaylee, who's in the yellow dress, she's going to be a freshman in college. I'm like, what's going on? In 3 years, we're empty. I can't believe it. And I'm only 27 years old. I don't. How does it happen? But anyway, those are some of my favorite people in the world. I just thought I'd introduce them to you for a second. And, thank you for having me. Chris, a year ago, I had my first sabbatical in 28 years of ministry. First one. And I came and worshiped with you people, and you didn't even know it, did you? But I did. And I had a chance to meet Chris that day, and we became friends. And so in March of this year, I invited him and said, hey, would you come in and talk at Woodridge on family? He knows a little bit about marriage, smidge. So I was like, hey, would you come in and talk? He was like, sure. And then he was like, hey, I'm going on a sabbatical. And would you come up and talk? I was like, sure. And so here we are. See, we've all made new friends. So I'm going to invite you to turn to Psalm 100. And we'll do it a little bit differently today. I'm going to talk a lot on the front end about some things, and then we'll get to the text at the back end, but I think it's going to make it click. Does that make sense? There's this book. I'm going to show it to you up on the screen. It's called Your Future Self Will Thank You. It came out actually some years ago, but listen to what he had to say. He said, the average American watches 5 hours of TV a day. 11 hours of total, in terms of screen time, 11 hours of total screen time a day. It's debated. Usually that ranges between 9 to 11 hours. But here's what he went on to say. If you sleep for 8 hours, you've got about 6 hours left to make eye contact with another human being. Kind of interesting to say. One report, he goes on to point out, the average American house has 7 digitally connected devices. Question, how many are in your home? 4. I actually got an answer over here. I appreciate the honesty. But the answer would be 7. There's more than 7 in my house. But you also saw my family. So just the phones alone, there's 6. But anyway, but here's what's going on. And this is what he was trying to point out when he wrote the book. Kind of the reason for the book is that there's this massive drive for us to become a discontented people. Just discontented and dissatisfied. And what has happened, and nobody's wondering this anymore. I mean, the data is what the data is, especially with the arrival and the advent of social media. Part of the problem is we've become a people that are filled with comparison, one person to the other. Here's a quote from the book. He said, sure, some people vacation in Tangier and eat sushi on mountaintops, but most of the time their lives aren't that glamorous. Isn't that true? Most of the time you're waking up, you're eating your breakfast, you're going about work, you're having time with your family and whatnot. It's not those kinds of experiences. But social media can give you a snapshot of what one pastor said was this. We are comparing our behind the scenes with their highlight reel. And what seems a hobby is actually fertilizer for sins that stem from comparison. Things like envy and coveting and greed and worry. When you take an even deeper look, before social media even became like a big thing, there's a guy named Sean Parker. Sean Parker was the founding president of Facebook. And he said this, from before they even opened this thing up to the public, the goal of Facebook was, and I'll just quote him, how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible? And he goes on to say this, by exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. He didn't hide it. He's saying the quiet part out loud, everybody. And he went on to say this: we need to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while because someone liked or commented on a photo or a post or whatever. It's a social validation feedback loop, exactly the same kind of thing a hacker like myself would come up with. What a quote. It's almost like, if I had to compare it to something, it's almost like a drug dealer that would give you drugs for free up front with the hope that it gets you hooked, and then you just keep coming back. But the problem is we have this steady diet, and maybe you don't. Maybe you're like, I'm out. I'm not in on it. And I'll say for me, the main thing, I do have social media. The main usage for me is I'm sharing stuff from the church. I kind of make the joke. I post and ghost. I might pop a few reels over to my daughters because they're hilarious. But then I've got other stuff to do. You get the idea? But here's the thing. What's happening is if we fall into the same crowd as what Your Future Self Will Thank You is talking about, we are consuming what they want you to get. And if what they're trying to primarily give you is a general spirit of discontentment, dissatisfaction, or honestly, the number one emotion they try to trigger in people is anger because they get the most clicks. They're telling you how they work. They're not hiding it. It's just we keep going back to it. If you keep feeding your soul with that kind of thing, well, guess what happens to your soul? But there is another way. I want to show you two people. Chris Tomaso and Indra Nooyi. I don't know if you know who they are, but Chris Tomaso is the CEO of First Watch. Some of you have probably heard of the restaurant First Watch. He writes 150 letters every week, letters of thanks and gratitude to people, every week. And then Indra Nooyi, when she was talking about what it means and some of the principles that guide her and her leadership, she was the former CEO of Pepsi. She wrote thousands of letters to parents of executives for the gift of their children to the company. I mean, how many people do something like that? Or how about this? When's the last time you just wrote a thank you letter to somebody? Or a text, we'll count that. But you know what I'm saying? The expression of gratitude. But when they were interviewed on why that's so important to them, this was what they said. They said, because the people that work for us, they feel seen, they feel appreciated, they don't feel taken for granted, they have higher work satisfaction, and we have higher retention as a result of it. And this was what they said. Gratitude. We have gratitude for these people. And not just that we feel it, we express it. We get it out to them. Let's go back to the negative side, though. Capitalizing on our dissatisfaction. This is the way that marketing works. I was looking into it. The worldwide marketing machine spends, listen to this, $450 billion annually. Not Dr. Evil's millions. I'm talking $450 billion annually to make you unhappy with who you are, with what you have, with how you look, and with what you do. It literally gets people to saying, maybe I need a new career, when maybe what they could learn is contentment with where God has them. There's this growing sense of dissatisfaction with almost everything. And this is what they do. It's a marketing ploy, and it works. There was an article called How to Motivate Your Prospects. How are we doing so far? You hanging in there? I promise it'll click, all right? Hang in there. How to motivate your prospects. This is what they said, and I just want to quote them. As an advertiser, it is your job to create discontentment inside the psyche of your prospects and to make them desire the change that you are offering. Interesting. Now, you would like to think, wow, this is social media, you know? And I did. I just kind of bullied up on it a little bit, and I don't feel bad about that. But it's not a new thing. This has been going on back since World War I. World War I. Some historians noted that there was a change in American advertising back then, from conveying product information. Hey, here's some soap that we want to sell you. Wash your body with it, and you're going to get clean. So that was information. What they wanted to do after that was to manufacture desire. It was no longer just product information. They wanted to manufacture desire. Or as they said, to rev up the economy, products were associated with images and glamour. And so what happened was marketing, it moved from fulfilling a legitimate need to trying to create one in you. Oh, I didn't know I needed that. Wow. Well, I guess we got to go shopping, right? That was what they were up to. And it reminded me of something, kind of a hilarious quote from some years ago. You know, we buy things that we don't need with money that we don't have to impress people that we don't like. And I was like, well, that's hilarious. If they're people I don't know if I don't like them, but I don't know them, so I don't know why I should be worried about trying to impress them. There's even a whole thing in terms of the science behind it. Facebook, they got social psychologists behind the scenes so that they could understand human psych. Chris would love this, wouldn't he? He would eat this up. They had people that study this so that they would know how to better get you addicted to what they were going to be producing. That was the goal. Here's what they found. We have friends at Michigan State University, and they have done studies on, watch it, gratitude. Gratitude. Here was what they said. When our brains constantly scan for and focus on the positive, we profit from 3 of the most important tools available to us: happiness, gratitude, and optimism. I want you to think about this for a second, though, with me. How many of you would agree with me? Skip the world, that seems huge, but how many of you would agree with me, even like Tyler, Texas, or just the United States, we could deal with a little bit more of a dose of happiness and optimism and gratitude? What do you think? I mean, I think it would make the world just a little bit of a better place. Here's what the guys up at Michigan State said. They said, gratitude is an emotion expressing an appreciation for what one has as opposed to what one wants. And so here, it's like Paul, when you think about it, he said, whether I've had a lot or whether I've had little, I have learned what? I've learned contentment. I've learned it. It didn't come naturally to him. He said, I have learned it. And then think about this push and pull with me. On the one hand, if the average American is cranking out, let's go on the low end, 7 hours or so, and constantly going back to the social media loops, are y'all tracking with me on this? You got that coming into your soul. On the other hand, you have this thing pushing against you with better things that you could be about that you don't have the time for because of what you're giving yourself to. There is a result to that. What you invest in has a return. And what they're finding is, no surprise, and Jonathan Haidt, who wrote a book called The Anxious Generation, here's what we found out, is that the iPhones were really kind of hitting at 2007. In 2012, more than 50% of the United States for the first time had a phone in their hand. And here was what they found: a massive increase in depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation. And they're like, look, we get the difference between correlation and causation, but man, it's pretty stark. At what point do you go, we need to rethink all of this? There is another way. With Michigan State, going back to even 2018, this was what they said: intentionally practicing gratitude causes increased happiness and mood. Or, as they said, people were finding they had more satisfaction with their life. They weren't always worried about what isn't there. They found that they had less materialistic leanings. They were good. It's like, hey, there's this new thing. They go, that looks amazing. I'm good. Or less likely to experience burnout. Now, here's why. Think about it. If what you're constantly doing is staying in the rat race to keep up with things, then you're constantly having to get more to get more. Does that make sense? You're having to get more from your job. You're having to get more from you're having to get more supply so that you can meet this perceived demand. And it never stops. And the result of it is you kind of just hit the wall. You burn out on things. Maybe there's another way. One of the things that I do, one of the things that I say, even to the church that I pastor, is I want them to have spiritual rhythms that are built into their every day, that they take control over their time rather than other things taking control over their time for them. And so just waking up in the morning and beginning your day in prayer. And that's what I do. I wake up, I have a dog named Duke. We also call him the Dark Lord, and I feed him. I let him out. He comes back in. He's a silver lab. He's like 12 and a half years old. He comes back in. I've got my coffee. He lays over my feet where I'm sitting, and I sit there and I read the Bible, and I begin the day talking with the Lord. But if you push to the end of the day, and the part that's going to be connecting here, because I at least try morning, noon, and night, like Psalm 51 says, morning, noon, and night do I pray to you, Lord. When I get home, finally at the end of a day, and everybody's kind of crashed, and I'm just laying in bed, and I got my head hitting the pillow, or I might be out on the pool, I don't know, whatever. But we're doing something here, and I have some quiet. This is how I end my day. It is always with gratitude, and that's it. There's no petitions happening. There's no Lord, would you help's happening. I do all that during the day. But at the end of the day, I want God to know I can see more than whatever I'm going through. I can see more than whatever the people I'm helping are going through. I can see it. That's how I end the day. The truth is, gratitude helps those who struggle, even with mental health issues. Practicing gratitude. Interesting. So, in honor of Chris, I want to share a study with you. Subjects were put into 3 groups. I told you he would love this. He would love this. So the first group wrote a letter of gratitude weekly for 3 weeks. The second group wrote down their thoughts and feelings about negative experiences that they were having. And then the third group did absolutely nothing, right? I kind of feel for the second and third groups. This is what we want you to do, but whatever. We'll let that go, right? Here was what they found. What they found is it took a little bit of time, but the group that was writing and expressing gratitude, their mental health took off in an incredibly positive way. Now, counseling services were made to all 3 groups, but what the researchers found was this, that in weeks 4 and through 12, group 1 showed significantly improved mental health. And they also found that when counseling was paired with gratitude, listen to what they said, it brings more benefits than counseling did alone. Gratitude did. The practice of it. Here's some thoughts that they found, and I'm going to throw a few of these up here for you. Gratitude unshackles us from toxic emotions. It seems that the gratitude letter group produced a better mental health by shifting their attention away from the negative, such as resentment or envy. You can even see this in marriages, by the way. You kind of get to a place where the habit is to critique rather than to bless. And maybe what we need to do is to rethink the ordering of things. Not that you don't have to have difficult conversations. Of course you do. We're all sinners. There's going to be moments, right? But words of blessing, words of encouragement. When you write down how grateful you are to others, this is what they said, and how much other people have blessed your life, it becomes considerably harder for you to ruminate about your negative experiences. Your perspective on life takes a different shape. But here's the thing, gratitude helped even if they didn't share it. For group number 1, when they wrote letters for 3 straight weeks, they didn't require them to send them out. They just said, write them. Only 23% actually sent them to the people that they wrote them to. I was like, well, that's a whole other study, right? But here was what they found. The psychological benefits were the same. That they were expressive of gratitude for the kindness that people had shown them or for something. But this is the other thing. The benefits took time. It wasn't one of those things. Now think about it. You can't break a habit in a day. It just doesn't work like that. And so if what we've been doing is feeding in all of this stuff, honestly, you got to detox for a bit. But what they were finding was even in group 1, you hit around the week 4 benefits. You hit around week 12, real benefits. Because new rhythms were created. New thought processes were taking over the negative. You get the idea of what they're saying here? It was really an impressive thing. But they also found this, gratitude has lasting effects on your brain. Literally on the brain. 3 months after the study, the researchers took some of those who wrote letters to study ongoing impact. And this is what they found. Their brain activity was distinct from brain actively related to guilt, and they became the people that they had a desire to help. It was a complete shift in the paradigm. What a thing. They even found that expressing gratitude was aiding with patients that were struggling with suicidal ideation, and not like a little bit, a lot. It took time. It can help with a crisis. Do you get the idea? But on the flip side, there's a researcher named Travis Bradberry, and what he said in his research, he has found that people complain once a minute. That made me tired thinking about it. Once a minute? Man. And then I was like, how did you measure it? And then I was like, let it go. We're going to go with it, right? But this was what he said. He said, when you repeat a behavior such as complaining, He said, your neurons branch out to each other to ease the flow of information. This makes it much easier to repeat that behavior in the future. And this was what he said. So easy, in fact, that you won't even recognize you're doing it anymore. It's just what you now do. Scientists like to put it like this. Neurons that fire together, they wire together. Wow. And you got to think about this. We're inherently social creatures. We are. And so our brains, they're naturally and unconsciously, they mimic the moods and the whatnot of the people that are around us. It's called mirroring. But one of the things that they went on to say was like, think about this. You're going to social media, you're getting all this like piped in, like hours at a time, day after day. That's a lot of taken in. And this is what they said. If a person were smoking, would you want to sit there all afternoon and inhale the secondhand smoke? And we go, no. I mean, we understand the dangers associated with secondhand smoke. We sure do. Give me my phone. And they're like, oh, slow down. There's another way. There's another way. All of that led us up to the 100th Psalm. See, I mean, we made it. We made it. How are y'all doing out there? All right. So the 100th Psalm, this one is often called a Todah Psalm. It sounds like ta-da, so that's going to make it easy to remember, right? But a Todah Psalm. And the reason is because what is in Psalm 100, most Old Testament scholars actually think goes back. It goes back to Leviticus chapter 7. And what you would find in Leviticus chapter 7, there's a lot of stuff. Y'all been reading Leviticus lately? Well, you will tonight, am I right? So in Leviticus chapter 7, there was this offering that was called the Thanksgiving offering. And it was completely voluntary. If you want to do it, you do it. It was voluntary. And this is what they would do. They would make a sacrifice to God. It was a Thanksgiving sacrifice to God because they could see how God had been a help to them. And like, we wanted to remember that. So what they would do is they would go to the temple with like oil, and they'd go with bread, and they would go with meat. This is Texas stuff going on here. They're having a barbecue outside of the temple. And what they would do, they would bring the unleavened bread, mixed it with oil. Leavened loaves were given to the priests that were there. The rest was given to the one that was covering the offering. But when they did, they walked up to the temple with their offering, and they invited other people to come join in the celebration. There was kind of a rule of the Thanksgiving offering, and it was this: it's all got to be eaten in one day. And I'm like, boy, we can do that, right? We're Baptists. We can do that. It all has to be eaten in one day. So you invite all of the people to come up to the temple with you to watch you give thanks publicly for the good things that God has done. And they celebrate with you the good things that God has done. It wasn't just something that you said. Todah wasn't just something that you said. It was something that you did. Pretty cool, right? So what if at South Spring we started Todahing on a Sunday, right? Somebody's got barbecue. I don't know, I'm just making that up right now. Yeah, the barbecue pit's fired up. There's enough for everybody. All right, you got to throw that in, right? And everybody joins into the celebration, and there's a story behind it of the good things that God has done. Here's why we do it. It's because we want to remember. We want to remember. Do you have anything that you keep that the reason that you keep it is when you look at it, it draws you right back to a place and a time? Do you know what I'm talking about? Right beside my bed, there's a shadow box. I've got my grandfather's dog tags. He fought in Patton's 3rd Infantry in the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. And right beside that, I've got my father's dog tags. He fought in Vietnam. I've got them right there. And every night as I'm coming out, I look, and those are there. And those are reminders of people that matter to me. A reminder. We need to remember. So here's the way this thing works. In Psalm 100, and we're actually going to have an audience participation part. Are you ready for that? Okay. Because the way that this thing is structured is it's structured like a call and response. Or the way I grew up, a responsive reading. Do y'all know what I'm talking about here? This is actually the way that this thing was structured. And so somebody would say a part of the 100th Psalm, and then the other people would shout part of it back. I'm going to begin it, but y'all hold on. Listen to the way it starts. Shout with joy to the Lord, all of the earth. Now stop for a minute. When's the last time you shouted with joy to the Lord? I mean, like you got it out there. When is the last time that you did something like that? It's all over Scripture that people would worship God like that. Shout to Him. Okay, so it got me thinking. Because part of the question, there are times I don't. God does this incredible thing for me or my family, and we're like, you just met an incredible need for me. Thanks. Right? And it doesn't, hold on to this. So, do we have any Astros fans out there? Anybody? We got 1, 2, we can count them up. 3, it's all right. Rangers fans? All right. That's fine. Listen, I grew up going to Ranger games. I'm good with both. Now, down where I'm at, they're like, you can't be. It doesn't work like that. And I'm like, you're not the boss of me. It's not the way this works. I'll cheer for whoever I want to. Right. So here's the thing. You go back several years. It was, 2019. It was the American League Championship Series. The Astros were playing the evil empire that is the New York Yankees. And I happen to know people. And one of those people got me tickets right on the third baseline. Right there. Now, we got to a point in the game where the Yankees had taken the lead. And I'll tell you, Minute Maid, or what was now, it's now Dakin Park, but whatever. Minute Maid, it got quiet, right? It was kind of a back and forth kind of thing. We really don't want the Yankees to win. And then Jose Altuve comes up to bat. And, I grew up playing baseball in the thriving town of Mineola, Texas. But the thing is, when a bat hits a ball and that sound it makes? And there was that moment. Altuve, bat, and it's like right when the ball hit the bat, I screamed out loud, it's gone! It hadn't left the ballpark yet, but the sound was there. And we just watched it go like this, and it goes flying out. And everybody's going buck wild. We're going to the World Series. All that stuff. Everybody's going crazy. Now, here's what didn't happen. That moment happens, and everybody sits there quietly in their seats, waiting for the worship leader to get up and say, let's sing, everybody. Here's what happened. Everybody was going crazy because of what just happened. We're walking out of Minute Maid Park. Everybody is singing Jose Altuve's name. I'm not making it up. We got out of Minute Maid Park. Everybody's singing his name all the way through the park to the cars. We got in the cars, turned on sports radio, and I could still hear people on sports radio singing, Jose, 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 in the car. It just naturally came out because of something that we experienced. In this psalm, 17 or 18 times, we're told to make a noise. We're told to shout. We're told to give praise. We're told to worship. And in the ancient Near East, when you stood in the presence of your king, when you stood in his presence, you would give a shout because your victory came because of him. Your victory came because of him. It's like in Joshua chapter 6, they had surrounded Jericho, and Joshua looks at all of his warriors, and he says, give a shout because the Lord has given you this city. The battle hadn't even started. The Lord has given you this city. It reminds me of this great quote from Spurgeon, the great preacher. He said, our happy God should be worshiped by a happy people. So true. And I'm not here to tell you that all of your circumstances are good. I don't even believe that. I'm here to tell you we do it because God is always good. Always. So this is audience participation. Let's go to Psalm 100. Now, I think I've written this in a way that you can follow. I'll be me, and you be you. How do you feel about that? Does that sound good? And we would read it just like they would in the ancient Near East. And so here we go. Y'all get ready. Shout with joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Now I'm going to say something. The 9 o'clock service said that they were going to be louder than you. I'm not making that up. So here's what we're going to do. A little bit more toda'iness. I verbed it, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to try one more time. Are you ready? Shout with joy to the Lord, all the earth, and worship the Lord with gladness. Much better, much better, and on key. Let's keep going. Acknowledge that the Lord is good. He made us, and we are His. Perfect. A little raspy, but it's perfect. Let's keep going. Enter his gates with thanksgiving. Do you remember they would literally bring the thanksgiving offering to the temple? They're entering the gates. Enter his gates with thanksgiving. Go into his courts with praise. Now let's all do it together in Psalm 105. For the Lord is good. His unfailing love continues forever, and his faithfulness continues to each generation. You did great. Now that's how you todah. Let it out. It's a good thing. Let it out. We're going to go into a time of worship here in just a little bit, but I want to share something with you. You know, when I get into my time of gratitude, the first thing I say to Jesus every night is, thank you for saving me. It's been crazy good to me. And I'm reminded of John 3:16. You know, for God so loved the world, he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes will not perish but have everlasting life. Whoever believes. Last I checked, you are a whoever. It's you. But think of some of the people in Scripture. Matthew was a corrupt tax collector. I mean, come on. Paul was a murderer. Saved. I don't know what your story is, but you need Jesus. I love this thought. Have you ever been at Starbucks or pick a coffee shop? My girls go to Dutch Bros, whatever, it's fine. But imagine that you're at a coffee shop, right? You get there and they go, oh, the car in front of you paid for yours. Have you ever had that happen before? Yeah, I mean, come on. That makes for a good day, am I right? It's because in a moment you sit there and you go, I just saved money. No, I'm kidding. What you do is you realize somebody just did something really gracious for me. Somebody just did something very kind for me. Somebody just did something for me that I don't deserve. Right? Grace does that to you. It really does. Or maybe you've been at a restaurant and you've got the appetizers, everybody got sweet tea, you really racked up a bill, and then you go, okay, and then you find out somebody has paid for it. They've even tipped. How do you respond in a moment like that? This is why I love this quote from Martin Lloyd-Jones. Martin Lloyd-Jones said, we don't know how to respond to the statement your bill has been paid until we know how big the bill is. The size of your bill determines how you respond to someone who pays for it. You only know how to respond when you understand the size and the scope and the magnitude of the bill. So I'll be honest with you, while I've had my coffee paid for, I can tell you there's some things I've never done. I have never tailgated the car in front of me after they left, followed them all the way home, flashing my lights, honking the horn at them, and then they pull over and I get out and I bow before the ground in front of them. Sometimes a thank you will do, right? Like a real one. But a genuine thank you will do, because the size of the bill affects our response to the one who paid the debt. But I want you to remember this great quote from Paul in Ephesians 1:7. He said, we have redemption in him through his blood, the forgiveness of our trespasses, according to the riches of his grace. So when you think of it like this, our worship and adoration should be in proportion to our understanding of the magnitude of the debt has been paid. How do I say thanks for something like that? How do I do that? So this morning, we're going to open this up for an invitation. It's a time for you to respond. And maybe you're a longtime follower of Jesus, and thank God for that. Maybe what this is for you is just a time of gratitude. Not just felt, but expressed. But if you came into this place today and you've never given your life to Jesus, I'd pray today would be the day that you would. Remember Jesus' words, if anyone would come after me, on the other side of that is grace and healing and forgiveness and restoration and a whole new life. And then our response to it after that is just a day after day. Thank you for all the good things that you've done for me. I see it. I just want to give you that time to respond. The front will be open.